Welcome to Talkin' Divorce with Dawn and Lori.
Are there people going through divorce that do not need a forensic accountant?
Likely, if there's no business at issue, they don't need a business valued, parties aren't in disagreement over bank accounts, brokerage accounts, retirement accounts. If they can agree, they don't need. But I would still suggest you have it eyeballed, just so that you know what you're agreeing to is actually
Fair.
correct
Yeah.
and accurate.
I had a client recently say, "Hey Don, I'm really afraid of going the forensic accounting route, okay? Because I've spoken to somebody that you've sent me to, and man, this could look bad for me. Do you think that she might take a certain sum without a forensic accounting?" And I'm like, well, that might be worthwhile, but at least you now know how urgent it is for you to make a really reasonable offer, right? Because of that. So that, again, just speaking with a forensic accountant will give you a gauge as to what kind of offers of settlement you could make. Because the family court's not going to care if there's no forensic accounting.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a division of property and there wasn't duress or fraud or lack of voluntariness, the court's going to sign it, and that's it. So the real question is how do the parties want to handle it?
Right, and some cases that we find, I shouldn't say a lot, but some cases where they know tax issues are going to be a problem. Let's say we put out a report that says, oh, he's underreported his income by X dollars every year for the last 3 years.
To keep
Then
the
that
taxes
could get
down.
flagged by the IRS. They could come back. So we can tell right away to make the decision, yes, settle it, make a decent offer, or let's get into private mediation. Don't have this information out in front of the court. Because both parties, especially if they filed jointly during the marriage, both parties could have tax consequences if the taxing authorities find out that things weren't done properly during the marriage.
What about properties that have, liens on them as well? Like, let's say that the family home incurred a lien, a tax lien, let's say IRS lien, and it has nothing to do with one spouse, but it only has to do with the one spouse, right, and not the other. So how does that work when they have to, sell the asset? Does the one spouse that doesn't have anything to do with it, does she accrue that that debt?
That's a very specific, and you'd have to look at the facts
Okay.
to see when the lien was incurred, if it was attached to a community property, or if it was attached to what was a separate property prior to it becoming a community asset. There's too many facts to.
Oh, okay, to really kind of.
Yeah.
But let's say if it was tied to the community property.
So let me
Like,
give my legal answer to this.
Okay.
It will show up on the forensic accounting report, and the report that will show up on is the balance sheet. Now, how it's going to be divided, with that lien on the property will depend on whether or not that lien is really a separate property lien or a community property lien. And sometimes even if it's a separate property lien, whether or not the community benefited from it. So let's say hypothetically that somebody came into the marriage with a judgment against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they get married and suddenly there's a lien put on a community asset. At the time of the divorce, most likely the court would determine that that's your separate property debt. And so when Jackie has her balance sheet, it's going to show that wife is going to get, her half, and then he's going to have to pay for that lien as it's coming out of the escrow.
Out
That's
of
what's
his
going to
half.
happen. Yeah.
Out of his, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just always curious about that because I know in the past that I've spoken to some people that, they get in trouble and they tend to hide things and they think that they could just kind of slide under the radar. But then when it comes down to it and, they're going through a divorce, then all this stuff is uncovered again.
Yeah,
and it's just,
There's danger too. I mean,
Yeah.
let's say that you are a deadbeat dad or mom, and you've got unpaid child support for the past 30 years, and it's accumulated to $150,000, and your ex has been hounding you and going after you, and you're going to escape the bullet because you're not working anymore, but you marry somebody that's got an income and some assets, and you start pooling your assets together, and then that person comes after that community estate. If it's commingled, guess what? That's how you could get in trouble for somebody else's separate property debt, because they're going to be able to go in and grab that money. So
That's more of a premarital agreement type. No?
yeah,
Yeah.
very much
Be
so.
sure to know what you're getting yourself
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, do an asset check and a judgment check on your fiance before you get married.
Right. That's awful, but yes.
Okay, so speaking of clients, so once a client retains your service, what can they expect from you on the onset?
Onset will assist them with getting their disclosures prepared, advising them what documents they need to gather to help us do our job.
Okay.
And we'll also do that with the attorneys. We'll advise them if my client isn't in control of the documents, well, then we'll advise my client's attorney, this is the documents we need, and please, go get them from the other side for us so we can accomplish our reports.
Yeah, one of the things that we do when we get Jackie signed up, and by the way, sometimes there's a race to find Jackie because they get conflicts of interest just like everybody else, and the other side might either have already retained her services or at least interviewed, and then we're out and we have to look for somebody else. So once that we get that relationship going, what I like to do is to get our client to actually have interface with Jackie as early as possible so they could tell their story and answer the multitude of questions that Jackie might have regarding the business. Once we get that first foundational data collection information in, then what we do is say, Jackie, let us know what you need. And she'll give us like pages of things that she wants from our client and from the other side. And the cool thing about family court that I really love is that there's some sanity that's imposed by the judges and all the attorneys. And that is if you got two forensic accountants on a case, what we do is we put the forensic accountants together, and they tend to work with each other and share the documents and things of that nature. I like to tell people that forensic accountants are great for us getting to the finish line because the forensics
That much quicker, right?
and they pick it up and they do all the heavy lifting when it comes to complex matters.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And Jackie, how often do your cases go to court?
Quite often. But it depends on the parties, what their goals are, what they're arguing about. A lot of times people will hire us just to say, well, I need to know what's reasonable so I can settle this. And it doesn't always end up in court.
Gotcha.
But if it's contentious, yeah, we're in court.
And so your work, it does help settle cases.
Absolutely.
Is it more,
Big time.
Okay.
I would say that more times than not, if we have a forensic accountant on our side, the case is going to settle. And Jackie will be there for us during settlement conferences.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can help identify where we differ, too. We do what's called a side-by-side with the other side. We'll have our approach, their approach. Where can we maneuver?
Mm-hmm.
And then identify only what major key issues we're not able to agree on. So maybe we can limit the amount of time in court.
Okay, and have you ever had one of those cases where it is just really complicated? So what type of analysis are you asked to perform when you get something like that?
If it's really complicated, we'll be asked to do all of it.
Okay,
So,
all those forms that you just listed earlier.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
everything will be addressed. Sometimes we're hired just to do a small portion of that because the attorney may feel comfortable in accumulating their own community property balance sheet. But we look at so many other areas that go into the balance sheet other than it depends on the facts of the case. You know, if the parties don't have a lot to deal with and they're dividing one or two assets and the house, you might not need. But all of those areas potential depends on what the facts are of each matter.
So having all of this stuff, and it's overwhelming to me, to be quite honest, as you're like saying everything that you do. So are you ever like stressed out about it? How do you deal?
I have a great team. I have a really great team. Yeah, we all get stressed, especially when it's litigation and there's deadlines, or if the attorney doesn't communicate well about deadlines, then it can get very stressful. But most of the time, I have a smooth running team in place, and we can work through all of it because we've been doing it a while. We know what we're doing.
Well, yeah, and you have a nice balance then with your.
The deadlines are the worst part, though, because in litigation, you have a filing, then you get to respond in so many days, then you have to respond
What happens
to
if
that.
you miss the
It's-
deadline?
Well, she doesn't suffer as much as I do. She might get an angry phone call, but I'm the one, that has to answer to the big man or woman sitting, with that black robe that's scowling down at you and saying, "Hey, you had a deadline." So they're imposed deadlines. But really, what happens is that the courts give us lots of leeway, so long as it knows that we're in good faith getting a forensic accounting done. And these things sometimes can be done quickly. There's other times where they're going to take a while. And that's done for a variety of reasons. I mean, the complexity of some of these cases require months and months sometimes.
Tremendous. I have
Yeah.
one case that has a 255-page document inventory. So that's just listing of the documents.
Oh, wow.
Because there's more than a handful of businesses, there's multiple residences and or real property. So
How long, what's the turnaround time frame for a case like that?
that all depends on how cooperative the parties are in getting the documents to us.
God. Mhm.
So, I mean, some would say 6 weeks to pull together reports, and that would be if and only if all the documents we needed to do that were available.
Yeah. And
That would be rare, but because they're usually the documents are not all available, or they don't even know until we do our preliminary and say, okay, we're this, and this is still needed to finalize.
And the forensics aren't the ones that are holding up the process in most cases. It's going to be the parties not getting the documents to us so we can get to the forensics. So when you were asking about the deadlines, Lori,
Yeah.
The think of it this way is that the court is going to be waiting on the forensics to get done because the forensics are really there to help. And
Yeah.
the courts understand that. So they're not going to be unreasonable, so long as people are acting in good faith.
Correct. Yeah, they look forward to getting what I mentioned earlier, the side-by-side. I know all judges want to see a side-by-side so that we can easily identify what our differences are.
You know what? AI could do that now.
True. True.
Not as good as you, though.
So, on that note, have you uncovered any serious, fraudulent cases?
Oh, yes. Many over the years.
What's your favorite case? No names.
It was a dentist. He had a large presence in the minority community, and they all paid in cash.
Oh.
And he didn't report any of the cash. So that's.
I feel there
That
are a
was one
lot of
good one.
businesses out there that do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think Jackie would tell you, as well as all of her colleagues, that is one of the more difficult areas for her to investigate because there's no records. But there are ways to investigate it. So.
Still are, yeah. We pulled patient records, and even though they argued HIPAA and all of that, but we were able to get at least redacted information of what potential additional income there was from the cash. And it also comes down to analyzing the party's lifestyle. If you're saying I'm only making XYZ, but you're spending ZYX, and there's no debt to show for that difference in spending, well, that's a big red flag right there, too.
Yeah.
We call that the Al Capone method.
Yeah.
Yes. So a war story. We had a case. I don't know if you were the forensic on it, but it was a dentist. We were representing the wife, who was not a dentist, and one day when he was out on a trip overseas, she went back into the family residence and looked into the nightstand and found his little record keeping of all the cash that he received, and brought that, and we copied that, and it added $100,000 to his income, which was significant for the purpose of support and for valuation of the business. So that was kind of a gotcha moment. But I bet you've got a lot more than
Yeah,
those.
well, my dentist was closer to $300,000
Woo.
a year.
Wow.
Per year.
Wow.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden he started reporting it. So then he has problems with the IRS too. So they tried really hard to keep this out of the courts.
Okay.
Because if the IRS caught wind, or any taxing authority caught wind of underreporting by $300,000 a year,
Yeah.
That's jail time.
This is another way that Jackie could help is she could find the reasons why people want to keep it out of court. And the biggest one is you guys haven't been paying your taxes. And if we go into court, some of those judges are reporting judges. They'll pick up the phone and call the IRS. And so a good forensic accountant is going to say, hey, warning, we got some problems here. Maybe you guys should think about settling it. You know?
Yeah.
And I know with real estate, rules are always changing, especially in my industry with the NAR rule and then also with the commission structure with the seller versus the buy side and all the new forms in California real estate. So how do you keep current and active with everything going on?
We try very hard. We get just as much information on changes in the laws and changes in the tax codes, changes, new case law that comes out. And then our firm also helps educate practicing attorneys by hosting study groups and to where we'll educate. So we've got to learn it so we can help educate the attorneys as well as to what all the new areas of laws, tax code.
This may be one of the most impressive things about their firm is that they're leaders in the community, in the family law community. What they do is they sponsor monthly study groups throughout Los Angeles and Orange County, and they have guest speakers, and Jackie sits there multiple times a month and listens to guest speakers and the review of the law. And even if it doesn't involve anything to do with forensic accounting, like child custody, she's there listening. She really is in the middle of it, and that's so unique. That's why I tell people, you get a forensic accountant like that, you're going to be like in good hands, because we're not talking about somebody that's flirting with a family law case. These are people that are leading in family law cases.
Thank you for that. Yes. And our speakers are all there to educate us as much as the attorneys. I mean, we'll have judges, we'll have industry specific people like IT people, not healthcare, psychologists and
therapists,
yes,
and
yes.
all the good people.
All to help the community.
And so those are the other professionals that you help collaborate with attorneys just to make sure the whole process is smooth.
Well, what she does is she collaborates with some specific people. Maybe you could address that, like, when you need values, right?
Yeah, I rely on a real estate broker opinion at times for determining what the value of the house is.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do our own independent research, but a lot of time we have to rely on a real estate appraiser to provide us the value for the home. At times we'll also rely on appraisers for equipment, especially if it's a equipment capital intensive with equipment business, and we'll need that information to really value the business. It can't just be on the income stream. We have to say, well, you have so much in equipment on your books, but yet what's that equipment really worth? And if it's worth it, or if there's enough at issue, we will recommend an equipment appraiser. Mm-hmm. Other areas are artwork and collectibles. We've hired specific appraisers or advised to hire a specific appraiser for those type of areas, especially if the case warrants it. I mean, I had one client that had over 100 Persian rugs. So we needed to have those specifically valued because it was going to make a huge difference in the equalization of the community.
Okay. And if anyone was interested in becoming a forensic accountant, what would you advise them to do?
Go get your head examined.
Yeah, right. First, they got to get their CPA. Then if they can take any courses specific to forensic accounting, there's a lot of courses out there that will try to teach you. And then you really just need to immerse yourself in the laws, family law, and I know my firm actually sponsored a forensic accounting course at Cal State Northridge for a few semesters.
A college course.
Yes.
Wow.
My prior partner actually taught the course at CSUN. So some schools actually offer classes in forensic accounting specific.
Oh, that's great.
But a lot of it is going to have to be self-study, I believe. Just round up every book you can on it.
Cool. Well, Jackie, I think that we've gotten a lot of your time, and I really appreciate you coming in.
Yes.
My
We
pleasure.
beg you to come back, please, because we just touched on a broad perspective. Now, I'm sure that my audience is going to be calling in, or our audience is going to be calling in and asking, can you elaborate a little bit more on certain things? And there's so much we could talk about. So
Oh, yes,
we
definitely.
hope that you come back. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Happy to. Let me
Yes.
know.
Thank you, Jackie.
Okay, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining us.